Hey, what's going on, everybody? Alex here with Freedom Mowers. We've got a broke down John Deere that came in as a trade-in. It's got a no crank condition along with some other problems. Let's see what we got to do to get this thing running, driving, cutting like new again. All right, and this is what we've got. This is a 2014 John Deere D130. Has the 42-inch cutting deck on it. Has a Briggs V-twin 22. It's got the larger rear tires or the wider ones, foot pedal hydrostatic drive, and the manual PTO. It's got 155 hours on it, so not many hours on this machine. Does have quite a bit of some paint peel on the mower deck, and I haven't tried to see condition of that. I did turn over the engine by hand and make sure it had compression. Basically, the guy ended up buying a hydrostatic Craftsman from me, said that he was having issues getting his mower started, and he said he had a John Deere for a trade-in, and this is what he brought. Now, it also came with a bagger that I've got over there, and I gave him $150 for a trade-in on it, just because this was in non-running condition, so I just don't know exactly what's going on with this machine. So hopefully this won't be too bad. We shall see. But overall, the back two tires are not really holding air. The front two seem to be holding. Blade looks like it's in fair shape. Overall, I didn't really see anything that stood out to me as far as leaks or anything like that on the engine. It has a battery in it from 2022. So overall, looks to be a nice machine. Definitely looking forward to getting this revived. So let me get set up. We'll get this pulled in the shop and let's get started. All right, let's at least check out that air filter and the oil. Looks pretty clean so far, but we are right at the minimum line, so that'll need topped off. But overall, the condition of the oil looks pretty good. Air filter does not look great at all, but at least there is an air filter in here. Yeah, that thing is packed full of dirt. Alright, we'll leave that off for now. We can test to see if there's any charge in that battery. I'm sure there's not going to be enough for anything. I do remember trying the key. Yeah, and there's absolutely nothing, so let's check that charge. Yeah, we've got 0.98 volts in this battery. So that battery is toast. We'll go ahead and throw the jumper pack to it and see what it does. Alright, I got the pack hooked up. I'm hoping you guys can hear me a little bit better now. I did just purchase a new mic for the GoPro, so trying to make the videos a little bit better for you guys. Solenoids clicking. Got a good connection. Let's grab the test light real quick and see if we're getting positive on the starter side of the starter solenoid. Alright, this one does have a starter solenoid in a pretty easy spot. A lot of the MTDs I work on, they're under the battery in the rear. So the way these work is you have one lead that's connected. This is a 4-post, so you have a ground wire that's going into the top. Then you also have a 12-volt signal wire that goes to it. You have an output that goes to your starter, and then the other side goes to your battery. So in order to test these, I'm just going to use my little test light. I'm going to hook it up to the negative side here. See if our light's working. So we're good. So basically what we're going to do is test to see if we're getting 12 volts to our starter side, which we are. So it's like hanging up. You see that? I don't have the key on anymore. We're still getting 12 volts. It's trying to light this up. It's really strange. So this is definitely hanging. So we're getting 12 volts to our starter. What I can do is we can go ahead and just hook up the jumper pack directly to the starter and see if it turns, and if it doesn't, then we know we've got a bad starter. It looks like somebody's already beat the side of this starter, so good probability there's broken magnets in there. So what we will go ahead and do is I'm going to put the positive right on to the stud here, and then I'm just going to ground this to the frame somewhere. Should be able to go right to the side of the exhaust on here. Yep. There we go. Okay. So let's check our connection to the starter real quick. So we've got a 7/16. Yeah, see, that already felt loose. We'll see what the terminal looks like. A little bit of corrosion on there. Let me grab a brush. Alright, I'm just going to clean this up. That looks good. Just got a steel brush. Alright, let's see what that does for us. Alright, let's snug that down. You don't want to really wrench on this, because you can end up breaking the plastic on the inside, and then you have like almost no connection. I'm pretty sure I saw an arc over on the ground cable, so let's check that really quick. Yeah, so we've got the ground bolt over here. I'm going to go ahead and try to just pull that out, and then we'll clean up that wire and see if that does anything for us. I mean, we can check to make sure we're getting a ground just by hooking up to the positive here and then checking ground, but sometimes that doesn't really give us the best indication. Alright, you know what, we are getting, it's at least lighting up the bulb. I want to see how much voltage we're actually getting over there to the starter real quick before we get too far ahead of ourselves. So let me grab the multimeter, make sure we're actually connected. So we got 12.53 out of our jumper pack. So let's see what we're actually getting to the starter here. I mean, we're getting 12.2, 12.3. So that should be enough to start it. Yeah, I'm definitely seeing, I just saw another arc on that that ground wire. So let me take that off. Let's clean that up, and then let's see if we're getting if we're gonna get this thing turning over. Alright, I just got that grounding bolt out. This is it right here. I took a few extensions so I could go just straight from the top. It was in there pretty good. What I'm going to do though is I'm just going to hit this on the wire wheel, and then the terminal didn't look that bad either, but I'm going to go ahead and clean that up, and then where it actually threads in and on the bolt, I'm going to put a little dielectric grease on there, and then we'll see what it does. Alright, I want to show you guys this. Hopefully it'll focus at least enough. So just hitting that on the wire wheel, I thought the threads were actually just damaged from coming out, but I can see basically this has welded itself, I guess, from arcing on the frame on both sides. So I really think that we did have a bad connection here. I'm going to go ahead and try that dielectric grease, and if this bolt is still having issues, we're going to find another one to put in there, but I've never actually seen anything like that. So I got to clean up this terminal. I'm going to reinstall and we'll see if we've got some starter action. Alright, I just got that snug down. It is a 10 millimeter. I don't know if I said that. Let me know, have you guys ever seen anything like that, or it was kind of arcing to the frame instead of having a good connection? Alright, so we're good there. Brake's still on. Alright, here we go. Money. Alright, so let's give this gas a smell test before we get to pumping too much. Honestly, that smells really fresh in there. Let's wipe down this filter a little bit. Enough where we can see if fuel is pumping. So we'll go to choke. So let's make sure all that stuff's working. I don't want to go full throttle, be stuck at full throttle. Alright, all of our linkages are moving free. Here we go. Even idles down like butter. Excellent. I don't want to run it too long with the oil on the low side, so let me go ahead and top that off. I want to check this footage real quick to make sure my mic is working before we get too far into this machine, and then I guess we'll see if we can go ahead and get this thing moving. Alright, and a few days later, trying to figure out where I left off. Basically, we got this up and running. I do want to check the charging system on here, make sure that's working. Then we're going to take this for a little spin. As long as everything is good with that, we'll go ahead, drop down the mowing deck, see what needs fixed. We're going to have to repaint that. We can check our pulleys underneath, see how that all goes. But we're jumping ahead of ourselves. Right now, what I want to do, we've got 12.11 volts in the jumper pack. We're going to crank it up, see what we're charging at. As long as we're charging on this, it doesn't need a big charging system because we still have a manual PTO on here, but we should be somewhere around 13 volts at charging, so we'll give it a whirl. Noise at all from the hydro on here. Nice and smooth. We can take one more look at the mowing deck and see if it seems like the belt is on. Looks like the belt is on the pulleys all the way. We can go ahead and try to just engage the mowing deck and see what that sounds like. Extremely quiet. Sounds like the blade brake is hanging up a little bit though. Honestly, that deck is super smooth though. Transmission feels great. Alright, we'll pull this up here. We'll get this mowing deck pulled off from here. Alright, so on these John Deere decks, they are pretty simple to get off. We have one pin right here that goes to our cable. Once you get slack in there, there's basically like a Z-bend on it to get that loose. We've got the rear hanger that has a cotter pin and a washer. Drop that down, and then if you turn these to the side, they have a little groove where that will actually come all the way out. We have one right here in the middle with a smaller washer. If I can get the washer off. I drop the washer down onto the mowing deck. We have front pin that comes out, and then we can fish out the front hanger. The belt slides over on either side of the pulley. There's a little hanger. Once we've got all that loose, there is the bar on the middle hanger that drops down, and then over here on the other side we just have the back hanger, and then that middle, and then we should be all set. So we just got to pull this cotter pin and the big washer, and then we've got the middle one here with the washer, so it's a smaller washer. Drop that bar down, take this hanger off. So yeah, if you turn it basically 90 degrees, it'll come right out of that groove. And that is it. It's fully disconnected at this point, so I can go ahead and just pull that out. All right, so you guys can see everything is still looking pretty intact on here. We've got both blade brakes. They still look like they've got a fair amount of life on them. That one right there is a little seized up. This is just your tensioner, so that Z-bend for the cable, it goes through the top and then hooks underneath, and then your cable rests on that little bracket. So what we'll do now is take a look underneath. Make sure you guys can see everything here. You guys heard or didn't hear how quiet that was. So I'm just trying to see if these blades are even, and they are far from even on here. And this one's a little bit loose. So this end is about probably almost a half an inch difference, and they're supposed to be completely straight across, and it's the same no matter which way I turn it. So more than likely it's not a bent blade. There's probably a bend in the mowing deck. These John Deere decks are kind of notorious for getting bends in them, and you kind of have to bang them back into shape. So we can take a look. We'll pull the covers off and see if it looks like there's any damage. If anything looks warped, we can check our idlers. I mean, you guys heard how quiet it is, so I don't think we're going to have any issues with idlers or the spindles, but we definitely need to straighten that out where those blades are even, because that's just going to cut uneven. As soon as you make one pass, you're going to have one side that's cutting half an inch higher than the other side. So overall, I mean, it looks like it's in good shape. It just has surface rust and paint peel. So we'll just go ahead and start getting this thing stripped down, figure out how we can fix the blade leveling on here, and then we'll go ahead and get this all prepped for paint. And to get these spindle covers off, they're just 10 millimeters. This one has 2 on it, and the other one has 3. So it looks like I can already see where there is a little bit of a bow on here. It looks like, from what I can see, it's kind of going at an upward angle, and you can see where the paint is chipped here. So if this is basically pushed up, it's tipping our spindle down. So if that's the right spot, then this blade should be the one that's a little bit lower than the other, if that makes sense. Yeah, and this is the one that's lower. So basically, in order to tip this back so these are even, we're basically just going to have to hammer on the top side here. I'll get like a 4x4 and a sledge. We'll have to pull this pulley off, and then we can basically bang this back down, and that should level everything out. Right, show you guys where I'm at. So I've got that block of wood basically in there holding it down. I did just try to start pushing on it with the breaker bar, and it is not moving. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the torch out, heat up that bolt, put some penetrating spray on there, and see if I can get the nut loose for the pulley here. No go. All right, and one more round of the heat. I got the electric impact out, and that nut finally came off. I'm not gonna touch that for a few minutes. Good gravy. So basically I'm just going to take this 4x4 block here, set it on the top and hit that, and then just keep rechecking. I need to get a bigger sledge. The only one I got here is a, what is this one, a 3-pounder? Just gonna take a few whacks at it and then we'll check to see if we're making some difference. It's definitely gonna take some work. It moved a little bit. We probably moved it 1/4 of an inch, so I'll keep working at this, and once I get it as straight as I can, I'll show you guys. All right, about 20 minutes later, I've got this probably within about a 30-second of the other blade, and everything looks good to go. You guys can see now, so it should be flat across the blades. That way we're getting nice and even. So at this point, basically what I had to do is I did hammer on that top side for a little bit, and it was making some difference, but I didn't want to keep going, so I ended up coming on this side, just the opposite, and I went outward with it, and that ended up bringing that up a little bit. So we should be in pretty good shape now. At this point, I'm gonna get everything here cleaned up. I'll get this set up so we can start prepping it for sanding, painting, and whatever else it needs. All right, just got this steel wire wheel. I'm gonna go ahead and try to just get where a lot of the loose paint is, get this kind of cleaned up the best I can, and then once I get it where the paint's not chipping anymore, I'll go ahead and get the sander out and kind of try to smooth out the edges. We'll throw some primer on it, and then we'll get a couple coats of some John Deere yellow. All right, it's looking a bit better. Obviously less paint on it than before, but looks like we should be in pretty good shape here. I'm gonna go ahead and get this washed up, and then I'll bring it back over here. I'm gonna try to feather in the edges a little bit with some sandpaper, and then we'll go ahead, mask it up, and then throw the first coat of primer on. Got this all sanded. I tried to blend in those edges a little bit and feather them in, but there's still some rough spots and still some pitting, but it's to be expected. But it's all basically prepped and ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and throw the first coat of John Deere yellow on here. I'll throw a light coat on, show you guys, and then I'm gonna spend probably 1 or 2 more coats on this, and we should be wrapped up with the mowing deck. All right, I did finish this up yesterday. There was a storm coming in. I ended up putting 2 coats on it and then put it in the shop overnight. But so far, it looks pretty darn good. I would say everything is basically all set on this besides just reassembly and then sharpening the blades. So I'm gonna let this dry for another day or so, and let's get back to that mower, see what we gotta finish up. All right, and besides this machine needing a detail and getting cleaned up quite a bit, I think we're in pretty good shape. We're gonna go ahead, give the engine a full service. I'll lift this up here in a minute. We'll take a look underneath. Our drive system was quiet, but I just wanna look at the pulleys and the belt. I've got 2 new plugs to go in here, the RC12YCs, and then also a brand new fuel filter. I got to run up the store, get an air filter and battery for it. But yeah, I think overall we're in pretty good shape. I am going to put some automatic transmission fluid in the rear tires, drive that around for a little bit and see if that will stop those from leaking down. I'll let it sit for a couple of days and see how it is. Let's get this lifted up, take a look underside, and then we'll get the engine all serviced up. So you guys can see everything. Basically started the front. We can look at our steering gears here, which look to be in really good shape. Obviously sometimes these get stripped out, and the bushing looks like it's in really good shape too. Belt on this looks to be almost brand new, honestly. I wouldn't think with 150 hours on it the belt would look that new, so maybe this has been changed out, because I can still see, maybe if you guys can see right up here, you can still see the sticker, but yeah, our pulleys feel good. I don't feel any flat spots or anything like that. and we would have heard the noise if any of these bearings were bad in the pulleys. So I would say we're in pretty good shape. I don't see any leaks right off the bat on the transmission. I do always look at the outer sides just to see, make sure there's no axle seals leaking. Looks like we're in pretty good shape down here. And we'll go ahead and get the old fuel filter swapped out. Who knows, this might be the original one on here. Just got to break the seal on here. Alright, there's that one. Alright, put our clamps back on there. Alright, clamps are on. That should be all set. Here's the old filter. Definitely had quite a bit of trash in it. So we got that changed. We'll go ahead and get these plugs. Yeah, these definitely have quite a bit of carbon on them. Throw in a brand new. It is a good idea to check the gap on the plugs too, even right out of the box. I did check these and they were right about 30 thousandths. Just get it snug where it clamps down on that crush washer. And that's it. I'm gonna go ahead and knock out the other side. Alright, got the other plug out. Looked just about the same as the first one. Looked like they were firing okay, but quite a bit of carbon on there. I'm gonna go ahead and put the automatic transmission fluid into these tires, and I'll show you guys how I do these. Basically, it ends up rehydrating some of the cracks on the inside and swells that back up and seals off the tire. Had pretty good luck with this in the past. It doesn't always work, but it does work more often than not. So I've got to take the core out of this tire. Once we get the valve core out, I've got a little bottle set up here with a straw. Show you guys. So got our core out. I've just got a straw here that fits right on to the valve stem, and then basically what I end up doing is pushing some of the air out of the tire. I'll put some fluid into this little cup, and then when I let off, it's going to draw it right in. So kind of have to do it with my knee, but you guys will see, and it'll just drink this up pretty much. Now my straw is definitely leaking some, but it is drawing this right up in there. You'll hear it. So we'll try that, see how it does. Kind of made a little mess. Just got to wipe that down. I'm going to do the other side the same way, and then basically I'll take the mower around the yard a few laps, let that circulate around inside the tires, and then we'll see within a few days if it's going to hold. I still got to wait at least probably another day for that deck to dry. Alright, just got back from Tractor Supply. I got a 300 cold cranking amp battery. Made sure it had the terminals that are on the right side, because it does matter on these particular mowers because the length of the battery cables. We got a new oil filter to go on, and so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and put in the new battery real quick. I'll let it run for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and get that oil changed. I'm going to go ahead and use the oil extractor. I'll show you guys how that works, but it's a little bit quicker than the old-fashioned oil change. Alright, out with the old, in with the new. These are 10 millimeters on here. Normally they're like 7/16 for most machines. So we'll see how this 300 cold cranking amp starts. Alright, I'll check in about 5 minutes. We'll get this pulled in the shop. Should be nice and warm now. It's about 10 minutes of run time. So we'll go ahead and get the dipstick pulled out and get you guys set up here. We'll go right to the oil extractor. So this thing just pulls up the oil basically by vacuum on here, which is really nice because I do so many oil changes. So you guys can see. So we'll let this pump. Now this one does draw a little bit, and then you got to pump it some more. They have some that run off from a compressor. This was just a cheap one from Harbor Freight, but it does save a ton on the mess, the oil changes. Just got to make sure I get it all the way down into the tube. There we go. That oil is hot coming out of there too. We're at about, well, the shop temperature right now says 98 degrees with the fan on. I'll try to pull as much as I can out of here, but it's pretty much empty already. Alright, we'll call that good. Still does drip a little bit if you're not careful, like I'm not. So that's pretty much about it. I'll just set that in loose for now. We'll go ahead and get that oil filter. I've really got to get a better oil filter wrench. This one's kind of in a tough spot. I've got one of these old like rubber style ones, and this thing is about dry rotted, so I'm hoping that this is even going to come off. Well, that thing was about loose as it could be anyway. Alright. It looked like it had some corrosion on there, so I was thinking it was going to be super stuck. So let me get a rag up under here. I'll go ahead and get our new filter. And then we can just use the box for the old one. This vent hose is like right in the way too. So pop out the old one. I'm gonna go ahead and take some of the old oil, just wipe it right there on that O-ring, help this seal up. These ones you can't really fill any oil in it because it's gonna be sitting on its side anyways. But we'll go ahead and get that run down on there and hand tight. Alright, all set with that. I'm going to go ahead and top off the oil. Then I'm going to bring this over and get it all pressure washed and cleaned up. I'll give you guys a little once over real quick too. Before I wash it, you guys can see a before and then after. And then we'll basically be on the home stretch of getting this all detailed up and giving it a full shakedown. Alright, one more look before I get going on this pressure washer. I mean, honestly, this mower, like we've said, it's in good shape. It's just dirty, needs cleaned up. Wheels are pretty gross on it. Just want to make sure it just all looks nice. Gonna get the seat cleaned up. I've got some, what is it, like Flex Dip, that yellow rubberized seal to try to put on the seat here. We got some oil from the oil change, stuff like that. And I'm waiting on an air filter to come in from Amazon. But other than that, we should be in pretty good shape. So I'll get this cleaned up and I'll show you guys once this thing is pretty much all set. All right, and here we are about a week later. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, maybe think about hitting that subscribe and the like button. Love hearing from you guys in the comment section. Go ahead and show you guys the mower. I've been working on it for a few hours. It is 99 degrees out today for the real feel, and I've been detailing it for a couple of hours. But overall, this John Deere came out really nice. So We had the electrical issue that we got sorted out on here, and surprisingly the carb did not need cleaned. Everything so far is working great. We did the deck on here. We had to get that all squared away, straightened out. I did just put the brand new air filter in here. So we've got oil change, air filter, new plugs, new fuel filter, brand new battery. Deck belt and drive belt were good. Drive belt was almost new. And I did sharpen the blades, and I did have to raise the left side of the mowing deck about 1/4 of an inch because it was off for the leveling. I did put the bagger on. Obviously you guys can see this is the one that came with it. It is a soft bag dual. But yeah, this thing runs great. Ready to give it a little shakedown, show you guys what it's all about. The only thing I'm waiting on is the that yellow like Flex Seal to come in, or the Plasti Dip, so I can finish up the seat. I know Bald Eagle 242 has really good videos on John Deere seat repairs. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. It's turned out really nice. We'll go ahead and crank it up at idle. Headlights work. Now, if I had the brake set. It is kind of hard to tell because I cut the grass a few days ago, but I'm looking at it. It probably took off about 1 inch, and it is nice and smooth. I got the anti-scalp wheels set, I think right at the right height. We'll take this for a little test drive, but it's running great and cutting great. see how much grass we bagged in that little bit of time. We probably did about, what, 6 passes maybe? So yeah, we got, I don't know, probably a 1/5 of a bag there, just a little bit on the inside. But it's bagging great. Alright, well I really do appreciate you guys stopping by the channel, and I do apologize for that part of the video where the audio was a bit messed up, but I've got the microphone figured out now, and hopefully we should have some much better audio. I am really pleased how this John Deere turned out. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. And I've got a Husqvarna that should be coming up next, and that thing is in rough shape, so hopefully we can get that one fixed up and get that one going good as well too. So as always, I really appreciate you guys stopping by, and on that note, let freedom ring, let those small engines sing. I'll see you all in the next one.